On behalf of the Board of Governors, I now have the honor of introducing today's keynote speaker, who I am pleased to share is the longtime visionary leader of the University of New Haven, Dr. Stephen H. Kaplan. After serving as president for 18 years, Dr. Kaplan was named the university's first chancellor this past year, and he will transition to president emeritus at the conclusion of the fiscal year in June. Under Dr. Kaplan's visionary leadership, the university has enjoyed its most prosperous period in its rich history, experiencing an incredible transformation that has fortified our standing as a destination school for talented students, faculty, and staff. Today, cutting-edge facilities dominate our growing footprint. Dozens of new industry-driven academic programs are now available to a student body that hails from across the globe. Our campus in Tuscany, Italy, in the cradle of the Renaissance, reflects our international reputation, while record-breaking enrollments, fundraising success, and grant-funded activity underscore our standing as one of the top universities in the region. Thanks to Dr. Kaplan's foresight, we are well positioned to build on this success through the work which is being conducted across the university as part of our strategic plan, which is entitled A Bold Path Forward. I would indeed be remiss if I did not also acknowledge the many contributions of Dr. Kaplan's wife, Anna C. Schweitzer Kaplan. Dr. and Mrs. Kaplan's commitment to and passion for our mission are truly unmatched. Both embody our Charter spirit and indeed exemplify our university-wide calling to make a difference in all that we do. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Stephen H. Kaplan.
Thank you, Phil. Congratulations to the members of the amazing class of 2023. I feel honored and humbled to serve as your commencement speaker. The task is also rather daunting. I hope in some small way I can live up to your expectations and say something, frankly anything, that you will remember and that might mean something to you. Someone once told me that the best and briefest commencement speech with which he was familiar was the following, quote, "We are leaving you a perfect world, don't screw it up." That was it. I hope this one sentence, which I didn't even write, will not be the only thing you remember from my commencement address. And I'm sorry if mine isn't quite so brief, but I'll try to keep it brief. I opened my inaugural address as the new president of the University of New Haven with the comment, "I am a contrarian leader." That was my first major address to the university community. Now, 19 years later, as I make my last major speech as the leader of the university, to you, the class of 2023, one of my 3 pieces of advice is to be contrarians. The other 2 are, do whatever you can do to clean up the mess the rest of us are leaving behind us, and be lifelong learners in the liberal arts and sciences. So what do I understand under the term contrarian? I will answer not with a definition, but with how I have practiced being a contrarian. I have had a habit all of my life of not doing what I was told to do, what others expected me to do, and instead doing what I thought I should do. And I have to put a huge emphasis on the word should, because for me, being a contrarian is often motivated by a sense of moral obligation. I firmly believe that attacking and solving major problems is best often accomplished through contrarian thinking. Frankly, being a contrarian is, at least for me, also a lot more fun than following the status quo. As Thomas Jefferson once said, a little revolution every now and then is a very good thing. Before I give you some examples of my contrarian behavior and thinking, in the spirit of full disclosure, I should tell you what my sister said to me after she attended my inauguration. She said, and I quote, "I am very proud of you, and frankly, I'm stunned. I always thought you'd end up in jail." And she was an assistant district attorney in Los Angeles, so she knew what she was talking about. What she said was, of course, shorthand for being a contrarian can often get you into trouble. And I've admittedly been an expert at getting myself into trouble. As a kid, I was a serial troublemaker. So much so that my mother often said that she would have preferred that we had lived closer to my schools so that her frequent trips to the principal's office wouldn't have taken so long. For me, being a contrarian came naturally. Indeed, my mother used to comment that I was born a contrarian. Even as an infant, I apparently tended to do the opposite of what people expected me to do. In my youth, I almost got kicked out of kindergarten for singing Hanukkah songs at Christmas, and I got in a lot of trouble in Sunday school for singing Christmas songs at Hanukkah. A little later, and the examples go on of being close to being arrested and so forth. When I was 8, I was crushed by a barbell on a weight machine my mother had explicitly forbidden me from using in the local gym. And for the next 3 weeks, the doctors did not think I would survive the internal injuries, and yet I still kept doing what people said I shouldn't do. I have an abundance of stories like these, but I think you get the point. But why, you must be asking yourself, am I recommending a form of thinking to you that almost cost me my life? The answer leads me back to something I said earlier, that you need to do whatever you can to clean up the mess the rest of us are leaving you with. I firmly believe that work of this magnitude can best be achieved through contrarian thinking, and I offer to you my last 19 years of leading the university as an example. When I first arrived at the university, the Board of Governors had just eliminated football as part of a series of drastic cost-cutting measures. There was also talk by some members of the board of completely eliminating the engineering school and merging the University of New Haven with the now extinct University of Bridgeport. Things were so bad back then that we often didn't know if we would make payroll. I was told as I arrived at the university that I should quickly develop a plan for the university that could reverse the downward trajectory we were on, and I was also told explicitly by the board that whatever plan I proposed could not involve taking on debt. This was put to me quite unequivocally. So, of course, in my first board member meeting, in an hour-long executive session, I outlined a plan for the university that was predicated on taking on debt. And I didn't lose my job. My contrarian plan was, somewhat to my surprise, unanimously endorsed by the board, and the rest, as they say, is history. It was during that time that we doubled our undergraduate enrollments, significantly improved the quality of the student body and the faculty, and put the university on a path of prosperity and success. I also often tried to model and encourage contrarian behavior and thinking among our student body. When I said about 8 years ago that we needed to build a science building, I brought in a group of our best and brightest students to convince our bankers to loan us the money. In the process, the two most vocal students in the room turned to the bankers and said, "We don't know what he's talking about. We don't need a science building. We need an innovation center." And I went with the contrarians, and that was the beginning of the Bergamy Center. As president, I've often done things that were not immediately popular or embraced, but I did them because I knew they needed to be done. I hope that most of the people I have worked with and the students I've gotten to know during my 19 years, of contrarian leadership feel that I've brought at least some value to the institution, despite my rather roundabout ways sometimes of getting there. And this leads me to my second point that I would like to make today. I hope your University of New Haven education has instilled in you a desire to make this world a better place than the one you inherited. In my opinion, the two greatest challenges facing you as graduates and us as a nation are the severe social and economic inequality that still plagues this country and climate change. As a nation, we have the wealth and intellectual capacity to address both of these compelling issues. And yet, based on the minor progress we have made to date, we seem to lack a sense of urgency about the existential challenges we are facing. I hope you, the members of the class of 2023, will tackle these issues and others with creativity and determination. As far as I'm concerned, you have no choice. With regard to the social and economic inequality in our nation, I ask you to consider just a few of many facts. Compared to other major economies, healthcare in the United States is extremely expensive. And yet, within the same peer group, the U.S. has among the lowest life expectancy at birth, among the highest death rates for avoidable or treatable conditions, and among the highest maternal and infant mortality rates. As a result of severe disparities and weaknesses in our public schools, the U.S. ranks 13th in reading, 37th in math, and 18th in science. The official poverty rate in the United States in 2021 was 11.6%, almost 38 million people living in poverty. And in 2021, the number of children living in poverty in this country was over 15%. These statistics and rankings fill me with sadness. I hope your reaction is similar and you will be willing to do something about such issues. Of course, with regard to the issue of tackling climate change, all I can tell you is you better sure as hell get cracking, because it's getting kind of late. So I say to you again, the class of 2023, please clean up the mess. And this leads me to my final point, that you should, in everything you do in your lives, draw upon the liberal education that has infused all that we have taught you at the university, regardless of your major. And by a liberal education, I am, of course, not referring to the political meaning of the word, but rather to the liberations of your minds that I hope has occurred as a consequence of your studies with us. It is liberal thinking and not technical training that will ultimately allow you to lead successful and purposeful lives. You might not have studied literature or art or science, but these and the other liberal arts were at the foundation of everything we taught you. I hope you will lead lives that are continuously being enriched by such things as the visual and performing arts, history and language, and scientific and mathematical inquiry. During my 19 years as a university president, I found myself returning almost every year to the same book. That was a book that provided me with replenishment, pleasure, and intellectual growth, Miguel Cervantes' Don Quixote. As crazy as it might sound, I think my rereading this work each year helped make me a better president. It certainly, I'm sure, made me a better human being. I hope your University of New Haven education has taught you to ask thoughtful and meaningful questions, to embrace diversity, to question false and harmful assumptions, to act against prejudice, to feel empathy and kindness in your interaction with others. I hope, in short, that we have cultivated your humanity. Albert Einstein said, "The value of a college education is not the learning of many facts, but the training of the mind to think." If we have done nothing else over your time at the university than to taught you to be better thinkers, then I think we have transformed your lives. I hope you leave here today as deep and probing thinkers, as individuals who will never stop asking questions. Of course, I hope you never asked the question why you had to sit through my commencement address. So thank you for your indulgence and for letting me and the University of New Haven be a part of your lives. I hope your University of New Haven education will inspire you throughout your lives to do great things. That certainly has been our goal. And as John Lennon says at the end of the Beatles' last movies, let it be, as the group has finished a concert on the roof of Apple Records for the neighborhood. On behalf of the group and myself, I hope we've passed the audition. Thank you and congratulations.